Hello everybody, it's Alyson Pellowe here with another PV live session, and I'm joined here by the wonderful, funky Frank. Hi Frank, how are you going?
I'm great, thank you.
Good. Before we get into today's topics, I'm pleased to announce that our brand new HR Minds podcast is now up and running. It's full speed with all our latest videos and content. You can check us out on Spotify, SoundCloud, Spreaker, anywhere and everywhere. Just search HR Minds Podcast. We can also check us out on our website where we've got some fantastic new how-to guides. Everything is uploaded, podcasts and everything. And as always, I'm so delighted to be joined by Frank. And what are we going to be talking about today, Frank?
We're going to be talking about compassion and self-compassion mainly. I want to be able to explain what compassion is, how self-compassion relates to ourselves. I want to talk a bit about the mindfulness and compassion, and then talk about, offer some exercises that people can do over the weekend so that they can brighten up their days.
Fantastic. Okay, that's brilliant. Well, I'm delighted to say we've already got some lovely people on the line already, and I can see John Delamy is then. He's saying good morning. So hi John, how are you going? And it's very clever. Look, we can show when people have got comments. We love it. And one of our my lovely friends here is Gillian Jurgens. Welcome. Hi Jill, how are you going? So nice to see you here today on the call. We love it. Thanks for your support. And Maria, welcome to Maria. So brilliant. Thank you all of you for coming today. We've got other people I know I can see on the line. So what we're going to do is we're going to get Frank to start talking about what the main content is that we're going to be covering today.
Right, so I'm going to talk about compassion. And to start off, what I wanted to do is to just do a quick quote. This quote actually covers everything that we're going to be talking about. And the quote comes from Dr. Joe Penzanza.
Wow. Put your teeth in.
And he says that one act of kindness is like dropping into a pebble into a pond, and the ripples spread out to everybody around you. So that's the core idea about one of the effects of compassion. So what I'd like you to do is to imagine that you're going through a rough patch. You've got a tough ordeal to go through.
What, like
COVID, it could be something more personal. Okay. Something that's going on in your life.
Yeah.
So ask yourself, what kind of companion would you like by your side? So your first companion might be somebody that says to you, "Oh, what have you got to complain about? Get on with life."
That's me.
Or your second companion could be somebody that says something like, "Oh, that's really tough, and I want you to know that I'm here for you."
Yeah. So
that second companion is demonstrating qualities that we call compassion, and which means that we're acknowledging the suffering of others and responding to them in a kind and caring way. So just to be clear, I want to be really clear on what I am talking about in terms of compassion.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about pity.
Okay.
Where you're just sorry for somebody. I'm not talking about sympathy, where you're just acknowledging or understanding someone's plight. Okay. I'm not talking about empathy, where you're cognitively understanding how the other person is feeling.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about altruism, where you're performing an act that might be costly to yourself, but is beneficial to others.
Right.
So compassion is kind of all of those, it's related to all of those things. But the key thing about compassion for me is the fact that it has a component which is compelling you to act.
Right.
You're acting to alleviate the suffering of others.
See, I think I misinterpret compassion for motivation. So do you know what I mean? I'd be like, right, okay, well, you've told me that piece of information. Right, what I think you should do is X, Y, Z, and I will give someone a load of tasks or motivation. Come on, we can do it together. So that would be my modus operandi. I'm not saying it's right. I think it probably sounds, as you've described, that's probably completely wrong.
No, there is a motivational component in compassion. You know, the part where you want to make something different, to change something, but the bit that you're missing, missing part of it is the empathy that goes along with that. So you're actually expressing, first of all, you're expressing to them how they feel. So you're sorry about how they feel, but I'm going to do something about it.
Yeah, I like to be a fixer. I like to be a fixer. Come on, sort it out. Yes.
So to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, I remember going through a really difficult period in my life. It's years ago, so it's not nothing that affects me now. But I was sent to Boston by a company I was working for 5 days to do a software convention.
Yeah.
And at the time, me and my partner were on the verge of breaking up.
Right.
And that's a really difficult situation to be in.
Yeah.
You know, we've been together for something like 20 years.
Right.
And I had to go off to this convention. And one of the things that she said to me was, you know, maybe this has come at the right time. You know, maybe it's going to give us a time to think about what we want in life.
Yeah.
So I arrived at the hotel in Boston, and I couldn't stop thinking about what she said. I didn't know what it meant. I kept on ruminating over the whole thing. And the following day, it happened to be my birthday. And so I went down to breakfast, and I'm at breakfast, and I'm sitting there trying to enjoy myself as much as I can on my own. And some guy came across and started having conversations with me, and we got talking. He told me a bit about himself. I told him where I was at the time, which wasn't a really good place. But he was due to fly off back to the UK. And so off he went. In the evening, that evening, I got a knock at my room door, and the staff had come up and they brought me a cake.
Oh.
This person had told them at 8 o'clock to take this cake up to me and wish me a happy birthday.
Oh.
Yeah, but the thing about that is this is where the compassion comes in. Obviously, he's a compassionate person, but what it did for me was it got me off that treadmill.
Yeah.
For that split second, it helped me shift my mindset.
Yeah.
And that's the power of compassion.
Yeah.
For a long period, I wasn't thinking about the problems I was experiencing. So what I want to say is compassion is all of those things I've talked about before, you know, pity, empathy, altruism, but it has that component that compels people to act, and they're acting to alleviate the suffering of others.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's what I would describe as compassion.
Yeah. Thanks for the comments that are coming in. So that's great for everyone. Now, so Julia, thank you. You're leading us on beautifully. So it's maybe easier to say and identify how to be compassionate to others. But if we were talking about being compassionate to oneself, so tell me more about that, Frank.
So compassion for ourselves. Okay, so if you take that bundle of compassion I was talking about earlier and apply it to this yourself. Yeah. Right, it's far more difficult to do that. Yeah. For some strange reason, we find it easier to be compassionate to others, but we don't tend to think about being compassionate to ourselves. Yeah. So self-compassion means learning how to treat yourself in the way that your second companion was, acknowledging your suffering and responding to yourself in a kind and caring way.
Now, we thought about this lady, didn't we? When we were doing our extensive research for today's live stream. And why did we think this lady? We thought she was sort of being, because I looked at her and I thought, oh, she's taking a compliment. That's what I thought. What was going on when you saw her? Frank?
When I saw the difference between your previous video and this one is, if you can imagine, compassion, it spreads out to a number of people.
Yeah.
In this one, what I could see is the self, herself. She's happy in herself.
Yeah.
Okay? And so that's what appealed to me in this one, because self-compassion is treating yourself in a warmth and caring, kind way, and extending that feeling to yourself in the same way that you would treat somebody, a loved one.
Yeah, I mean, and when I saw her, I thought I liked, because that's the frame of reference I had. I thought he was giving her a compliment, and not in a flirty way. I thought I would like to think this is a boss having a coffee or a colleague with her and saying, "Well done on that piece of work." She goes, "No, really? Do you think I did well?" Because I think to be compassionate is to hear when someone says you did a really good job. I think certainly as British, was very self-effacing. So it's not in our nature to go, "Oh yeah, whoop, didn't I do a great job there?"
Yeah, that's an excellent point. But that is more outward expressing your emotions. What I'm talking about here is more inward looking,
right,
and applying things, being kind to yourself.
Okay.
So when we experience great pain, as I was talking about earlier, we tend to treat ourselves not very well. Our minds belittle us, and we overreact to things. And we talk about ourselves. You're so weak. You can't do this. You can't do that. Get on with life. You hear people say, think about the starving children in Africa. But what I'm talking about is to give yourself a break. Okay. The thing is, Alyson, if anybody on the planet had your DNA, you're brought up in your childhood, your life history, you had your body, they would respond in the same way as you respond.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not necessarily about you.
It's about me, Frank. Don't you know anything?
But let's say that you screwed up, okay?
Yeah.
Perhaps you could remind yourself that we're human, we're fallible, right? We all make mistakes. Nobody's perfect.
And obviously, some people are very good at being, self-forgiving, compassionate, whichever way you want to. Are they the same thing? I don't know. John says compassion can overlap with kindness, being kind to yourself, all of that sort of thing. So, and some people, and I think maybe the more resilient and the different times, I think you just sort of highlighted as well, the different times in your life, you can maybe be more forgiving. It might be worse if you've done a number of different things wrong in a period of time, and then and the final straw that breaks the camel's back, you just think, I can't cope. I've just done this so many times, so badly. And so what sort of things can you do to overcome that way of thinking, do you think, Frank?
Yeah, it's I was listening to the words that you were using to describe your situation. Yeah. One of the things that we can do is change those words.
Right.
One of the things that we can do is talk about ourselves in a different way.
Right.
So one of the things I know for sure is whenever you go into a new situation, say you go into work, okay? You go into work and you're meeting new people and you're trying to fit in with everybody. If you talk about yourself in a negative way, what you're actually doing is giving people license to talk about you in a negative way.
Yeah.
If you talk to yourself in a positive way, then they will talk about you in a positive way.
Yeah.
So it's about changing that mindset of how you see yourself and how you talk about yourself. That inner dialogue that goes on. And it's really difficult when you're in challenging situations. But that's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about mindfulness, you see, which we're going to come on to in a second.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. It's created that time slot, as it were. I mean, Freddie's got a great comment here. Self-compassion has a ripple effect externally, which is exactly what you just said, Frank. It's just like, if you believe it to be true, then others around you will believe it to be true. So yeah, I think that's absolutely right.
Exactly. And so if you purposefully and intentionally, when you're meeting new people, talk about yourself in a positive way, I think you set the roadmap for them to follow in talking about you in a positive way. But if you're in a negative space, the opposite is true.
Yeah, true. That's really true. That's really true. Julia says many people feel selfish if they take the time out for themselves during tough times. So, should this be seen as guilt-free, Frank?
Yes, because we're all in the same boat, right? We all have these emotions. What I'm not saying is that we don't have the emotions. These emotions will arise in you. It's how you face up to them. It's how you treat them that is going to influence the outcome of them. So yes, it's not like I walk around and I feel, because I do mindfulness, I walk around and everything's rosy and I don't have any problems. I still have to pay my bills. I still have to find work, and some of the things I try to do don't come off. Some of the things I do for people are not appreciated. They generate emotions in me because I'm human. But one of the things I don't do is I don't become those things.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And because I've trained myself to recognize them. This feeling that I'm feeling now is anger. It doesn't mean that I have to be angry.
See, what you're good at is being able to step outside yourself and look in and see how you're behaving. You can rationalize that. We've had work situations where we've had to talk about something that's quite sensitive, and I can be quite emotional about that and get quite, emotional. That's just the best word for it. And I'm in the moment and I'm seeing and being and feeling that thing, whatever that thing is. And yet for you, when you responded to me, you were very, not dismissive at all, but you were very matter of fact, and this is how the other person saw it. That's their view. So you've obviously got I don't know whether that's because you're particularly mindful or that's because that's just your modus operandi. I don't know. But that was my time made on you.
I like to think it's because I am mindful about things. It allows me to step out of the situation and get a broader view of it.
Yeah.
Okay? And not be wrapped up in all the emotions. That's not to say that I don't have those emotions. When that thing happened, initially, I felt I've been under attack. I felt that things weren't going right. The voices were in my head. I did my very best, but it's not being appreciated.
Yeah.
All of those things were happening, but then I could take a moment. I could take a moment and say, hang on a minute. Okay, that's all going on in my head. It doesn't necessarily mean it's actually happening. It doesn't mean that it's real.
Yeah, I mean, compassion. You've helped me with compassion, for myself. I mean, to be honest, on a scale of 1 to 10, I would say, those who know me on the call, I'm pretty. I'm a pretty positive person, and I actually think my area of learning is more about the compassion for others. Let's be honest.
Right. Yes.
I'm pretty good with myself, and I'm like, I'm good. And if I make mistakes, which I make a lot of, spelling is my absolute nemesis. But I kind of just forgive myself and say, okay, I spelt it wrong. I make up for it in lots of other ways. But with other people, I think I could definitely demonstrate more. And I think the mindfulness that you're talking about could really link to that thing as well. So, moving on to you being more mindful and what you're thinking. So here's this lovely lady. She's doing mindfulness in her Swedish office or wherever she is. She's feeling the love. So what goes on? How does mindfulness link to this compassion?
Well, first of all, what I want to say is that there are many ways of dealing with becoming more compassionate. There's lots of ways of becoming more self-compassionate. I've just chosen the way of mindfulness for me. It works for me. Okay,
right.
So I'm not selling mindfulness here. I'm just saying that this is just one way of dealing with it. You know, meditative and religious practices actually can be used to develop self-compassion. So I just want to tell you a story. My brother and sisters, we all grew up in a religious environment,
right?
But I and he were never ever religious. You know, I take a science view of things,
right?
But my brother died of prostate cancer in 2001. All right. And at the point where he was nearly dying, okay, he did something that I thought was really strange at the time. He picked up the Bible, and you know, many years later, I was thinking about it, and what he must have been doing is he was obviously searching for something that was going to give him hope.
Yeah.
And so, you know, many years later, I'm not religious, but I do practice mindfulness because I believe that you can get that same sense of hope. You can achieve that through mindfulness.
Okay.
And so that's why I do mindfulness. And mindfulness has all the tools that we need to be able to address this, because mindfulness focuses on attention, your thoughts, and your awareness. And it allows us to teach ourselves to be present in the moment. And so for me, I would have loved at the time when my brother told me that he had cancer. I can remember it as like yesterday. My mind went off in all sorts of directions, okay? But I wasn't present. I would have liked to have been present to say something like, yeah, that's really difficult, and do you know what, I'm here for you.
Okay.
Right, I would like to have done that. But in addition, mindfulness allows us to learn how to deal with the harsh self-talk.
Yes.
That goes on. You learn to unhook from that. You know, we've been talking about it earlier. You can unhook yourself from the harsh judgments. You know, you're not good enough. Those types of things, and when they arise in your inner dialogue,
yes,
you can deal with them better.
Yeah.
So I was going to say that the first step of mindfulness self-compassion is to consciously and intentionally notice and acknowledge what pain that we're suffering. Okay, and this can be done by just naming the emotion that you're feeling. Okay, so that's the first step. And then the second step is to respond to yourself in a way that conveys caring and kindness, in the same way that you would speak to somebody that you love, but you're speaking to yourself. So that's how I see mindfulness fitting in. It's a tool that it's one way that we can overcome those self-judgments and those negative thoughts.
So thanks. That's. I'm sorry to hear about your brother. Yeah.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine.
But you were mindful enough to say, right, how would I respond differently, and what can I do differently for myself and in the future, so that I can be more valuable to others, you know, in my responses. And then that's had a knock-on effect on your own personal strength,
yes,
which is really good.
And others.
Yeah.
So one of the first things I was saying was that, you know, one act of kindness is like dropping a pebble in the pond. You know, it has the ripple effect. So if you can be kind to yourself, right, and people will see that in you. Yeah. You know, and that will have a ripple effect on other people.
Yeah. I definitely think, just a bit of a random example, but I definitely think, you know, I try to model that with my daughter. And so as an example, it sounds a bit of a naff thing, so like if the hairdresser comes or you have your nails done, I always tip, and I always say to Darcy, no, you must tip as well, you know, and it's just a small thing. And now she's working in hospitality, and now she's paying for her own nails to be done. She does it too. And I just think, you know, thinking in that way, not just of oneself, and you know, is so important. I mean, that's on a very commercial scale, but if we can I think I could definitely improve on a kind of communication scale. So I asked if on the team if anyone here has been doing mindfulness, and Julia says, yeah, gratitude mindfulness in the morning and listen to the guided meditation before I go to sleep, which calms her mind, which is amazing.
Yes.
It's such a good principle. So Frank, let's talk about other people. I mean, what do you think I and maybe others on the call can learn about being mindful, being great, what we do, get a bit with others.
Self-compassionate.
Passionate with others.
Yes. Just forgive yourself. It really doesn't matter. So, what can we do? So I wanted to offer 3 self-compassionate exercises. Okay. Yeah. And so these exercises are scientifically proven to boost your well-being. All right. And if you feel good about yourself, then maybe that was going to rub off on people over the bank holiday.
Yeah.
Everybody that you come into contact with. Yes. So I'm going to offer you 3. I'm not expecting everybody to do all 3. Okay. Right. And it's just putting it out there. If you want to do it, then you can do it. And you can boost your well-being. So the first one of the 3 is random acts of kindness. Okay. So what I'm suggesting here is over the next 3 days, you perform 3 acts of kindness, all in one day.
Okay.
3 a day for the next 3 days.
3 a day?
Right. Yes. So yeah, but I'm not talking about. They don't have to be big things. They could be really small things.
Okay.
But the thing I want you to do is you don't do the same thing 3 times in that day. So try to do 3 different things.
Oh, flipping it. That's what I was going to make just
all right. If that one's not for you, here's another one.
This is what I need to work on.
Okay. That's one. So the next one is 3 good things. Okay. So what this is each day over the next 3 days, write down 3 good things that have happened to you during the day.
Right. Okay.
And with that, provide some explanation of why it went well. Okay. So over the next 3 days, preferably just before you go to bed, just think about 3 things that happened to you during the day and write them down. It's important that you write them down.
Why?
Because I think when you write things down, it's just like keeping a journal. You have to organize your mind in terms of writing it down. So instead of just thinking about it in your mind, when you have to write it down, you have to coordinate the words and your meaning and things like that. It just adds to it's like adding flavor to a meal.
I also think that it would, if we could bear to not do it on our phone and we could write it, if we could get a book and write it or a piece of paper, that would be even better, because we wouldn't then get distracted by looking at whatever else. Because I think the point you're trying to get to is, look, if you write it, you think in it, you might spend another 30 seconds, even if it's another 30 seconds thinking about it. Exactly.
Which brings us on to the last one, okay? A gratitude letter.
Oh my God, really? What's a gratitude letter?
A gratitude letter is, if you was to take a moment to think in your past, over the last several years, of a situation where somebody has done something good for you, right? But you didn't have the chance to say thank you.
Okay.
So the exercise is to write a letter to that person, explaining how you felt and how they helped you. So you don't have to send a letter to them. That's optional, right? But it's just the act of writing out what they did for you and how you feel, how you appreciated it, and how it's affected your life. So that's a gratitude letter. So they're the 3 things.
So I'm just wondering if people could put some comments in, if there's anyone that's got any ideas of the acts of kindness, of things that come to their mind that they could do. How do they feel about that? So, you know, I've been quite open and extrovert there and going, what, 9 things for I'm an only child, and I am very much, it's all about Alyson, and that's what and I'm conscious of that. I also have an only child, so it's all about her as well. So my poor husband lives with two only children. He's one of 6, so he's so used to, it's a very different dynamic.
Yes, it is.
So I'm wondering what people think about, you know, so your random acts of kindness, if you live on your own, which I think you do, don't you, Frank? So what sort of things could you do as somebody who lives on their own?
No, it's if I have done this. If I've gone out to the supermarket, I have seen people who have struggled to do things, and I've helped them.
Right.
You know, it might be that one time, quite recently, there's this woman. She's quite small, and she was trying to get something off the top shelf.
Yeah.
Right? And I could see that was happening, and I just offered to get it for her.
Yeah.
So it's not. It doesn't have to be a huge thing.
Yeah.
Okay. It's just doing something that's kind.
I get that. I helped a man who was, bless him, he was on his Zimmer frame and he was pushing his wheelie bin out, and I had my dog, and I was like, whoa, let me help you with that, you know. And he looked
exactly.
So okay, so it's looking outside our family. It's anything as we're passing, maybe putting something in the food bank, what, you know, something like that.
Anything like that. That. So the thing about random acts of kindness is you're not doing it so that you get thanks. Okay, you're not doing it because you want to get something out of it. You're just doing it because it's kind. It's a kind thing to do.
Yeah, John says kindness. He's put another little comment in a minute, but he says kindness acts do not need to be big deeds, small things that others would appreciate.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
So that's really helpful. I mean, I guess as someone who is quite selfish, I think it's important to say, you know, we're just having this honest dialogue. I think it is really good for me to do things like that and to think about others. So people on the call today might struggle more with themselves and that end of things, or other people might struggle more with this, about thinking about, you know, being kind to others. And I kind of think it more, I think compassion sounds a bit deep and fluffy. I think I just think of it as kindness, but that's just language.
Love and kindness. You can think about it in those terms.
Yeah.
But the why I fixate on compassion is because I think it's a mindset. It's a way of living your life.
Right. Yeah. I mean, these people were, you know, let's hope that people, when they get back into the office, they can actually have moments like this where they are allowed to sit close enough to people to give them a high five. I mean, I think communication and compassion like that, I mean, using electronic and virtual meetings, a lot of that emotion and compassion is removed, isn't it?
It is. Yes. I don't want to get into the wrongs and rights of multimedia, but we do rely, especially this this generation coming. They rely a lot on getting feedback from people, the likes. So this is the opposite to that. It's more about what you can do for others. And the thing about it is when you do something kind to somebody, you get rewarded. Okay, so it's a win-win situation. You get a release of dopamine when you do something kind, which makes you feel good.
And that's why I'm sure there's so many philanthropists, you know, with the pots of cash who are sharing. I mean, we just touched on these some of these areas, but compassion for others can be, you know, so touching, you know, to be physical, obviously only if appropriate, but encouraging others. I think this is a really interesting when I was looking at this, respecting privacy. You know, not everybody wants to say so. That could be compassion. It's like, look, you don't need to tell me what's going on. I'm here. If you want to chat, if you want to talk, but it's okay.
It's not about gathering information. It's not about one-upmanship or anything like that. It's just being with somebody and respecting respecting other people. Yeah.
Being an advocate, so, you know, sharing and, you know, being in the community and helping them, and also maybe even volunteering. can help in helping others. I mean, I'm not expecting you all to go and cycle for UNICEF around the planet or anything, but there are other things that you can do.
Yeah.
In summary, Frank, what would be great to have some comments of what people liked about the live today. If you could summarise into 3 comments, what would they be to close today, Frank?
I think that the discussion that we've had today has been really positive, and I'm hoping that people will take that positive away with them over the weekend and into the bank holiday.
Yeah.
I'm not preaching to people. I am just putting it out there, and for some people it will resonate with them, and potentially they will go on to do an act of kindness or whatever.
Yeah.
But to close, I think that compassion, believe it or not, is part of the human condition. You know, we wouldn't, there's 8 billion people on the planet now. We wouldn't be here if there wasn't an element of compassion. And I think this compassion is going to be just growing and growing and growing, generation after generation. So this could be the start of something good.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, I think with what is going on in the world, you know, not only with COVID and Afghanistan and, you know, and the implications of, I'm going to say COVID, have meant that people who had challenges within their life, whether it's physical, mental, financial, that has expedited things. So I think it would be great if everybody who's on the call can think about themselves in that sort of positive way. If you've done things wrong, things you're embarrassed about, balls ups, whatever they are, it's okay, you know, and those around you will say it's okay. I think it's a really valid point that you said about, even if you believe something isn't wrong, just don't go telling everyone. So be kind to yourself, even if you're beating yourself up inside. I think what you said, Frank, is you don't need to share that with everyone else so they start to believe that and it becomes the truth for them. So
we're human, and humans make mistakes all the time. We just accept them, learn from them, and move on.
Yeah. And we need to do. Oh, I like Di's comment here. That caught my eye, Di caught my eye. Does having a gin and tonic in the garden this evening count as a self-compassionate act?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So be kind to yourself and others. John says volunteering and embracing a cause can help with resilience. And I think that's true, because if you're committed to a cause, you can't really just bugger off after 2 weeks.
No.
You know, and that's why things like for the kids doing Duke of Edinburgh and volunteering and stuff like that is so good. Yeah. So we've got some really lovely comments. Thanks, Freddie. Well done, Alyson. Frank, love the stories and the key actions at the end. Fantastic. Di is delighted that she can go and have a gin and tonic. Frank, what's one thing you're going to do?
I'm going to have a rest, actually.
Oh, okay, you go and have a rest. I'm going to go and put the kettle on, as my husband will love a nice cup of tea.
There you go.
All right, well, listen, thanks everybody. Thanks everyone for joining us today. We really, really appreciate your time on the call. And please do get back to us if you'd like to find out more about our podcasts or our how-to guides. If you've got ideas on sessions, if you'd like to be on one of our sessions, we absolutely love it. And thank you, Antonia, who's come on today. Thanks so much. Lovely to see you, Antonia. Thanks for everyone on the call today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you all.